All right, guys, welcome to the Account Ads. This is the podcast for the strategizers, thinkers, doers, and leaders in the finance world. Now, last week, I was screen sharing with someone on my team, showing them something that I've set up in Claude. And they stopped me and they said, wait, how did you get to do that? And that's when I was like, yeah, I've got to slow down. And it hit me, right? Most of us are driving a Ferrari in first gear, particularly with these AI tools. Everyone's got access to the same model, same power, but only a few of us know how to use it properly because we've spent the time in dabbling and clicking every button and trying to understand every single thing. It's like 9 out of 10 people are using it like a fancy Google. We open a chat, we ask a question, we get a decent answer, and we close it. And that's all it is to us. But then the next time we do it, we do the same thing over and over again. So I said to this person, I said, hey, I reckon a bunch of you guys would get value out of this. So I'm going to take you through this. This is exactly what I took them through. So this is essentially me doing that again for you guys so that hopefully you can find value out of this and set up your Claude like you would if you were sitting in a business as a finance leader or a CFO and you want to empower your Claude to not just be a chatbot, but something that can actually be very powerful for you within your business to do analysis, to provide commentary, to essentially be your thinking partner. The wild part is, right, it's not a capability difference. For anyone that uses this for the first time, you might think, I don't know how to use it. I need to do a training session. It's actually not. You already have the capability. That's you. You're brilliant. It's how you configure Claude. And so that's what I'm going to show you today. There's a couple of things I'll take you through. So strap yourselves in and let's go.
That's a good point. I've done a where.
Okay. So the first thing you'll notice that in Claude, there are a couple of different models. So download Claude Desktop. I reckon it's really useful. Or you can just go to claude.ai and go on there. But there's models here that you can see. So the Opus 5 model in particular is pretty good. Fable 5 is the highest, pretty expensive, and chews up tokens. Tokens is just think of it as credits. But Opus 5 is pretty good at checking its own work and iterating until it gets it right. So that's the thing that we as accountants really care about, right? So I reckon that's what you should go with if you're doing a lot of reasoning. Think of it as a smart model with kind of zero context. It's a pretty smart stranger, but if you just start typing in here, it's got no context about your business. It doesn't have any idea of how you work, what's important to you. And so what we're trying to do now is set this up, set your Claude up so it has a bit of context. Think about it as onboarding. If you have a new employee come in, you're not just going to give them work and have them hit the ground running without telling them anything about the role, what your expectations are, about the business. So what does that look like? What does onboarding look like for your Claude? The first thing is, if you look at this, there's a thing called privacy. So if you're going to put company data into it, usually in your teams and enterprise plans, they will protect your data. But when you're on a personal plan, you actually need to turn some of these things off manually. So if you go to privacy here, there's a thing called help improve our AI models. If you turn that off, it doesn't use your data to train. So that's one of the first things I'd recommend doing. Another thing I'd recommend doing is going to capabilities. And in here, you have a whole heap of things that you can do as well. So if you've been using ChatGPT as an example, you can import kind of your memory from those other AI providers into here, so it has some context built in. You can also essentially craft context and memory about who you are. And so this is what Claude remembers about me. If you've only just started using it, this will be blank or won't say much. But if you've been using it for ages, this essentially gives you an overview of who you are, how you use Claude, and what's important to you. So if you want a deep dive into your own life, recommend you go in here and understand what Claude knows about you. And you can obviously manage your edits and stuff in here. Something else you can use is obviously the profile. Here you can tell Claude a bit of instructions about yourself, about how you work, what's important to you, how you want it to respond to you. And this just applies to everything, all your chats, all your projects. It's a global kind of instruction. Let's get into the nitty gritty. So you can talk to Claude in chat. So this is the chat kind of functionality. You can talk to Claude in a Cowork capacity. And essentially this is where you can talk to Claude and ask it to do something. It'll open up Excel. It'll create an Excel file for you. It'll do that in Word. or you can talk to it in Claude Code. And this is the same thing, except instead of talking to it in natural language, you're still in natural language, but it's using Claude Code to give you the output that you require, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, whether it's a HTML file, whether it's an app. It does it in that way for you. One of the things I really like using is projects. So in projects, you could treat it as a chat as well as Cowork, but projects just kind of segment your work. So I kind of live a life at the moment where I have a couple of different projects running, not just my work, but I also have, a couple of things I'm building. I've got podcasts we're running. And so I've got a project for each of these different initiatives. And each of these projects have instructions under them. Essentially, these instructions just tell Claude what's important to me, how it should respond to me. It tells Claude what my deliverables are, might give Claude essentially things that are important for my project. And I'll show you a bit about it. So if I go to this project that we have, we used this in a previous example, actually, precision cabinet. So imagine we're in a business. There's a couple of different things here that are important. So firstly, instructions. So if you remember a couple of minutes ago, I talked to you about global instructions that you apply to Claude. These are project-specific instructions. So you can see in this particular business, I've given it project-specific instructions on how to operate and answer to me. So I've told it who it is. This is your project-specific onboarding. I've said you're a finance planning co-pilot for this company. Essentially, this is the workspace for our full planning system. Support your monthly rollover. This is what you should act. This is how you should act. These are the things you should say, do. This is the context that's important to you. This is how you should respond to me in terms of conventions, AUDs, how you want to see your dollars, etc. And that just makes it so much tidier so that when you're giving it questions or you're giving it work to do, it does it in a way that's important to you. Again, we went to memory. This is how I've used this project. It's got this in memory now and it's articulated that for me. The other thing is context. So context is good. You're obviously giving it some context and instructions, but you can also upload files. So if you're working in a business, this is where you can upload a ton of files to. You can upload your any PDFs with board packs or budgets or Word documents. And essentially this just gives this project context about your business, results and things like that, segments that to this project. So when you ask it a question, it can look through your context as well as look through what you upload in that question. Now you can see here, you can do chat or Cowork. Cowork helps you create stuff. So if you want board packs or Excel documents or images, whatever it is, it co-works with you. That's why it's called Cowork. And you can keep iterating on whatever it's creating. And chat is just chat. But ultimately, if you chat with it and ask questions and you want to create something, it'll turn itself to Cowork and do that for you. This is something that's highly underutilized. People use Claude a lot, the chat functionality, but if you can set this up for your business internally or even as a team. So I've seen businesses have all of their users set up a project which they can all contribute to. And essentially you can, or the owner of this project can set up the instructions, the memory, the context so that you can all start querying this. And you can either share queries, so you can show your queries to everyone else, or you can even have it private. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. But think about it as this one common person in your team that you've onboarded, who's this AI project Claude person that essentially has a super brain that's absorbing everything that you're giving it, answering it to the best of its ability. And again, you never take what it says and present that to the board. You always have to validate it. But I find this is great as a tool to brainstorm, as a sounding board. And I just think it's something that we can utilize to get better at our jobs and add more value to the businesses that we sit in. There is another feature called skills. Skills essentially tells Claude how to do a specific job. So if you do something over and over again, so for the podcast, for example, every time we finish a podcast, we kind of go through Claude and we brainstorm title ideas and thumbnails and, descriptions. And instead of me typing in that over and over again. I've built a skill. So essentially I upload the transcript of the episode and I just run the skill. Don't have to say anything. I just run the skill and it gives me what I need off the back of it. So that's something that you can set up as well. I won't go into detail in this episode on that because I think that takes a bit more crafting. But I just want to give you this essentially. The purpose of this is to enable you to use these tools to the best of your abilities and become a super user at it. It doesn't take much to become a super user. It just takes a bit of time and practice. And it's like anything. It's like using Microsoft Excel for the first time. I'm sure you felt pretty naked the first time you used Excel, but after a couple of trial and error months or weeks, you felt like you were a bit more equipped. There's another thing called connectors as well. This is where you can connect to various apps, connect to things that you're using, particularly ERPs and general ledgers. You can connect to Xero even if you're using Xero. Or if you don't want to use a connector, you can use a tool like Safra, which we're building as well. So that's kind of the overview of Claude. This is the overview I gave to my team and the people that I've been talking to as well. If any of this resonates, you want me to go into detail in any of these, feel free to put it in the comments or get in touch with me, DM me or anyone in the pod. That's what I'll leave you with today. And there's 2 accountants from here, right? This is the first one that opens the chat, asks a hard question, gets a decent answer and moves on. And they'll keep doing that probably for the rest of their life. And every month, they'll re-explain the entity structure, re-describe the format they want, re-teach Claude how the client's business works through chat. And the answers will be fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the second type of accountant will spend time on setting this up specifically so that once you set it up, it's replicable. We'll set up the memory so it carries the context, set up instructions so it kills any preamble, sets up a project so it already knows the chart of accounts, sets up skills so it reruns month end the same way every time. And both of them are using the same tool, same model, but only one of them is building something which is replicable, which is essentially a brain. And that's the whole difference, right? It's not a capability gap anymore. Anyone can have access to these tools, and you can't even buy your way past it. It doesn't matter if you buy the most expensive tools. It's all about configuration. And I think that's what we should hone into ourselves. So that's our homework. Do this for your business, do this for your client, or even do this for your personal finances. Or set up some sample data if you just want to play with stuff. Try that out. Let me know how you feel. If you want some sample data, put it in the comments. We'll send it to you as well. Cheers, guys. Thanks for listening.